It's been unboxed, and now here are your first impressions of the Moto Edge Plus. Before we really get into this video, apologies if the audio here gets a bit funky. I have ridiculous construction happening literally right outside my window. So this is gonna be an incredible test of my noise reduction filtering capabilities to keep my voice elevated against sounds that are literally rumbling my office. Qualcomm and Motorola sent over this phone for me to review. I put out the call on Twitter. I got some fun replies. Here are the top responses asking about the 2022 Motorola Edge Plus. Dr. Kitty Muffins wrote in, low light picture performance and screen performance in direct sunlight. Now, I'm not a display expert, but so far the 144 Hz screen has delivered in a direct daylight showdown against the Note 22. I'd say the Note has it by a tiny edge in brightness, but messing with the different screen and color profiles, I kind of like the Motorola take on saturated a little better than Samsung's, and I think they're both spot on for natural screen modes. Low light camera performance has been interesting, where the general trend in camera tech recently has been to lean into the color of light more. Motorola seems more interested in finding the true scientific white of the subject when we're talking about white balance. And I'll definitely be digging in more for my camera deep dive on my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. Android Ash writes in, run it through Geekbench, take a photo of a fire hydrant, and that'll do. Well, I did the poorly composed shot of a fire hydrant under awful street lamps already, so that's most of a tech review right there. The Geekbench scores are about where we would expect them to be for a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. I'd say you could look up a Galaxy S22 score on the Geekbench listings to compare, but you know, you kinda can't. In other testing though, my collection of real world tasks, the Moto has handily outperformed the S22, largely hangs with the Note 22, wins some fights, loses a few others, and I imagine it would mostly eke out wins against an S22 Plus. Sumit writes, cameras. How is it compared to the Pixel 6? I understand Moto's more spec'd overall hardware-wise, but is it a good alternative to the Pixel 6? This was also asked by Digital Jedi, Scott, and Zoran. This is one I'm gonna need to shoot more and tackle in a camera deep dive, but a Pixel carries a hardware advantage on the main camera sensor being larger, and folks genuinely seem to enjoy the Pixel camera app. The Moto camera app still has a few video gremlins to suss out, and the main sensor is smaller. The output so far has been very pleasing. This has been refreshingly competitive. Against a Pixel 6 though, the Moto does have a more functional ultra-wide, which has autofocus and can be used as a macro shooter. So head to head, it does score some wins against a Pixel 6 even before we get updates for this overall camera system. Eric wrote in, does it have the Moto at-a-glance touch icon on the lock screen like the Moto X? And does it have the gesture launch for flashlight and camera? Some fan favorite features, and there seem to be analogous features on the Edge Plus. Lock screen gestures take you to direct notifications, and of course, flip and chop for the camera and flashlight. Overall, generally stock appearance with a number of custom actions subtly baked in. It's definitely living up to that classic Motorola vibe. Vince asks, obviously, how does it feel in the hand? Which is a running gag on my channel about how much time we dedicate in tech reviews to filler material. It feels really nice in the hand, as if engineers haven't been designing these things for evolved primates with opposable thumbs. But Zoran asked in earnest, feel of the phone without a sleeve, slippery, usable with one hand? Okay, so I'll take this question a bit more seriously. In general ranking, without a case, it's not as slippery as a Pixel or some of the other super glossy phones we've seen, but it's not quite as grippable as my Vivo X70 Pro Plus or the Note 22, which have more matte and satin finishes. I just kind of recommend people put cases on any phone they buy these days. Personally, I'm anxious to see what Moto does with their little folio stylus case for the Edge, so I'll follow up on that when it's finally out. But Vince had a serious question too, and that was mirrored by Jason. Many of the comments I'm getting on this phone want me to focus on Ready 4, Motorola's desktop mode, and how that might compare against Samsung's DeX. I'm nerded out hard on Ready 4 in my unboxing and setup live stream. It's really good. My buddy TK has a look at it already published on his channel, and I'll be following up on this feature myself in a couple of days when I get a chance to use it a little more. I need it to round out my previous videos on the Android desktop mode and on Samsung DeX, which are linked below in the description. Desktop modes are a critical value add for a premium Android phone. They help you get a lot more compute use out of an expensive purchase. So there you have it, a quick roundup of first impressions questions, what you're interested in looking at the new 2022 Motorola Edge Plus. I'll be spending a bit more time really using the phone to wrap up my full review. If there are other questions you'd like to see answered, make sure you're not only subscribed and have smashed bell icon, but also you're dropping them tasty hot takes in the comments below. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel. All the support has been fantastic. You might consider joining the list of names scrolling by on your screen. That's from my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This is a list of the coolest tech pals in the universe, so I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, also on the Facebooks and the Instagrams. I did reactivate my Flickr account, and I will catch you all on the next video.